I'm Mark Pendlington. I'm the chairman of the New Anglia Local Enterprise Partnership. This is a vibrant £28 billion economy through Norfolk and Suffolk. And our priorities, which the government has given a fantastic vote of confidence in, is by 2026 to have 95,000 more jobs, to build 117,000 more homes, and to bring the productivity up per capita by 10%, and to create 10,000 more businesses. This is going to be a real enterprise capital for UK PLC. A green economy isn't a subset of the actual economy. It is integrated with the real economy. That's a fact and very well established. Why we need to focus on the green economy here is that this is a region that is very vulnerable to climate change. It's the most low-lying in the UK. And vulnerable to rising sea levels and all sorts of very potentially damaging things for communities and businesses. So we have to think about low carbon and about projecting and promoting businesses that are in that space. The one way we're going to achieve a vibrant green economy and for it to be competitive and successful in the global economy is for us all to collaborate together. There's no point in us working in our excellent little silos, working hard and achieving not as much as we could. We have to work together and drive this agenda and drive the commitment to a green economy, more so than ever in the past. That's why organisations like SABRE are reaching to the practical end of businesses. They're talking to the people who are creating the jobs, who are being competitive and are actually making the economy a vibrant place to be. And as much help as we can get to them, the better, because they have the ideas, the entrepreneurship and the energy to bring all of those ambitions to life and to make this a really successful, vibrant economy.
I'm Matt Hollis and I'm Head of Environment Strategy at Suffolk County Council. One of our ambitions in creating the greenest county is to dramatically reduce carbon emissions. And we know that a third of carbon emissions comes from business and industrial use. And we also know that a key bottom line cost to businesses is its fuel and energy use. And those two things are directly related. So the carbon emissions and fuel use are directly related. So what we've identified is that if we can support businesses to reduce their bottom line costs in fuel use, in water use, in the way they manage their waste and the products they buy, then we can help them reduce their emissions. We're working with partners to deliver this. We're working with our district council and borough council partners. We're working with the university, with the Environment Agency, and more recently with New Anglia Local Enterprise Partnership. So over the last 6 or 7 years, we've supported over 700 businesses in Suffolk with our advice and accreditation support. And our research shows that those businesses can identify 15% savings in their bottom line costs, and that equates to many millions of pounds saved every single year that those businesses can recycle back into that business to develop it further and to allow it to grow. We're able to deliver these services in Suffolk because we've got good access to external funding. But what we do know is we need to scale up the delivery of these services. There are many more businesses out there, 31,000 in Suffolk, and we've only touched 700 or 800 of them. We're working with our partners at New Anglia Local Enterprise Partnership and all our existing partners to develop bigger services that will mean the impact of this work will go further to help us on our journey to creating the greenest county.
I'm David Walton and I manage the Suffolk Climate Change Partnership. The partnership's core aims are to support communities, businesses and householders to reduce carbon emissions and realise the economic benefits of investing in renewable energy. The Climate Change Partnership is part of the Creating the Greenest County priority in Suffolk. We're one of the 4 main delivery partnerships for that initiative. And we include all of Suffolk's local authorities, plus a number of other organisations working locally, such as Groundworks Suffolk, University Campus Suffolk, and the Environment Agency. We wanted to offer a programme or a support service that focused more on renewable energy, especially to those businesses that had already maximised their resource efficiency. We wanted to offer something that was an independent, impartial and honest appraisal of the options open to businesses. There seemed at the time, this is back in 2010, to be a great deal of information that was often contradictory, very difficult for businesses to wade through on the feed-in tariffs, which at that point had only just launched. And the renewable heat incentive indeed had yet to launch at that point. So we wanted to be able to offer something very simple for businesses that cut through all that, gave them a clear cost-benefit analysis of the options most appropriate to them as a business, and to give them the option of some follow-on support after that, after the initial assessment, to help them realise the full benefits of the investment solution that was most appropriate to their needs. Well, businesses loved it actually. They were particularly positive about the support offered by our advisor, Ben Coulter. I can't stress enough how critical he was to the success of the project. But businesses said things like they really valued the independent, honest, impartial advice that we gave. It enabled them to really see the facts instead of having to listen to a sales pitch from a range of different installers. There was no selling of any particular product or technology type or manufacturer or installer. It was that independence that they really valued, and it enabled, and the follow-up support. We had a lot of very positive comments about that. It enabled them, once they'd digested their report, to think about what they wanted to do and then go and take that action forward for implementation. And that follow-up support really enabled businesses to reap the financial and environmental benefits of the support that we offered.
Valley Farm approached us, as with most organisations, saying that they wanted to do something, I think in their words, green. So we talked to them about the organisation, talked about how they were using energy, talked about the potential options. They already had in mind some technologies, and really the SABRE programme gave them a means of prioritising one or two key technologies. And for them it was looking at their cafe and looking at the means of heating the cafe.
I'm Sarah Robertson and I run this enterprise with my husband David, and we have a number of operations. Essentially it's horse-based, but we also have a campsite and a self-catering holiday lodge and a cafe. I think any business, you're always looking at the financial side, clearly, but definitely the environmental as well. I think everybody these days is very aware of that, and so we need to try to keep on top of things. We had solar panels, and we were looking at doing something in our cafe for the heating, because we did have storage heaters. The problem with the storage heaters is that they just weren't economical and they were very old, and it wasn't kind of working in with the solar power. And so we were given a choice of then a wood burner or air source heat pump. For us, the wood burner was a problem because the staff clearly would forget to make it up and wouldn't have time to chop the wood, and so that sort of was a bit unfortunate we left that side. But the air source heat pump just filled the criteria, and that's perfect, and it does the job fantastically. We should have done it before.
The first part of the brief for any SABRE company is that they have to have done something, ideally plenty of resource efficiency work already. So you wouldn't put a renewable technology, which quite often is one of the last things you'll look at from an energy perspective, into an otherwise energy inefficient building. In Valley Farm's case, the cafe was fairly well insulated. It couldn't be significantly improved without really big expenditure. Their issue was more the means of heating it, and for that the air source heat pump did the job, and although it's early days, they've had one winter with it already, and they say that it's been working very well indeed.
Adcox did the air source heat pump in the cafe, and I have to say they were brilliant because we had a bit of a deadline. We knew that the Christmas holidays were approaching. By the time everything was in place, it left us about 2 days to actually get everything done. But they were just fantastic. Within about 24 hours they managed to pull their engineers over here, and within 2 days it was all done and finished, and it was all done by Christmas and the Christmas holidays, and we had good use of it. So before the air source heat pump, we had already fitted solar PV to the roof of the big indoor school, paying for about 3/4 of our electricity consumption at that time, and then with the advice that we received, we've managed to get that up now, so it pretty well covers all of it. We run a children's residential holiday centre, and they have a swimming pool, and so now we were looking at sourcing heat for the swimming pool, and so we've used Ben again for that, and he's been really helpful, just telling us the different options and how we can go about doing that. The air source heat pump was just the most enormous bonus last winter, although it wasn't actually as cold as it could have been. We had a mild winter, but I'm sure we'll get a really cold winter at some point. We'll be able to make higher use of it. But it seriously did make a difference, and you can just turn it on and off, so it's not wasteful because you can just put it off when there's nobody about. It heats up very quickly, so it's great.
As with so many companies, once they've done something successful with regard to renewable energy or energy efficiency, they then want to take it a step further, and in terms of Valley Farm, the follow-up support is looking at a big biomass burner, a boiler, to provide some of the heat to their buildings, which at the moment is provided by a mixture of electrical heat and they already use wood from their own farm.
I would definitely recommend it. In fact, I already have done. The whole system and support system is just fantastic. We definitely wouldn't have got to where we are now without it. I don't have the time or the knowledge, and they supplied all the expertise. Yes, definitely would recommend it.
I'm David Foreman. I work for Kind Water Limited. We're a water softener company. We're East Anglia's main dealer for water softeners. SABRE was brought to us with Ben. He then spoke to my boss Julian, who took him through various options, including wood burning stoves, and we looked at air source heat pump, which seemed a much cleaner and easier solution, and we combined that with underfloor heating to provide a much better and more efficient environment in the office. We came about this decision because it was the simplest looking solution. We know people that have used air source heat pumps before. We've got a good location for gaining the heat on that in the morning, and our electricity bills are suggesting that that was a good move forward for saving energy and therefore cost.
As with so many companies, once they've done something successful with regard to renewable energy or energy efficiency, they then want to take it a step further.
We're always looking at ways of reducing our environmental impact, so there's various ways of doing that, and we also looked and have planning permission for solar panels as a future investment. We try as best possible to recycle everything that comes through here. So we have very, very limited waste. All the pallets and all the wood that comes through here has either gone back to supplier or recycled. Have a number of local people use it for their composting bins to make those up. All the plastic, shrink film, that all gets recycled, goes back. And all the cardboard is either used for repackaging with another local manufacturing company, or we send that back for recycling. When we were looking at the project, I thought we need to review the level of lighting that we had, so we then moved to all LED lighting. So we got LED strip lighting in the office. We have sensor LED spotlighting going through corridors and engineers' areas, so that they're only on demand.
In terms of determining which technology suits a site most appropriately, it is always a question of horses for courses. Every business is different, and what may have worked well in terms of a renewable technology at one site may well work perfectly well or perfectly badly at another site. So it's always a question of speaking first with the business, understanding what their requirements are, and then overlaying onto that business the technologies that are available. And we appreciate that most of the companies are short on time. That's why we're there. So the main aim is to say, look, there may be 6, 7 technologies that you could use, but we will recommend maybe 1 or 2 technologies. And if you like the sound of that and you like the basic cost-benefit analysis we do for it, we can then take you on to the next stage, which is to look at a more detailed feasibility study, looking at payback, looking at potential incentives financially associated with it.
SABRE Service is very good. They provided good independent and expert advice on all areas of the recycling and renewable options that we had.
I'm Julian Coleman. I'm the quality manager for Denny Brothers. The main environmental impact is use of energy. We're trying to reduce our environmental impact as much as possible, and without being starry-eyed, we're trying to reduce business cost. The two things are quite compatible. There isn't a major issue with that. We'd already done a lot of the perhaps more straightforward things, improving the lighting, putting areas like corridors and things onto sensors. But the idea of being able to generate some of your own energy is definitely very attractive.
When we looked at solar PV, that just looking at the roof of Denny Brothers already suggested itself, and it was timely, and that's often the case with renewable energies. You have to look at the application you have in mind for it. You have to look at the timing in terms of incentives and cost of the technology. And in that respect, solar PV was the front runner.
Because we'd been sort of looking at solar PV and in particular. It was one of those projects that was probably a little bit beyond our capability and know-how. Yes, plenty of people have done solar PV installations, but there was such a wide choice of how you did it, what size installation and so on. So SABRE coming along at that particular time was absolutely spot on. It's pretty brilliant really, the support that we had, because what I wanted to do as much, I had probably 2 or 3 very clear criteria when I was selecting the solar panels and also the inverters.
The support that SABRE provided was mainly helping rationalise the quotes that they'd got, looking at potential tweaks to the technology to make sure that it was exactly what was needed, helping with the cost-benefit analysis. And this is something which most SABRE companies have said themselves, is that even with the best will in the world, an installer or a supplier of the technology will give you the best case scenario. What we have been well received for at SABRE is saying, well, there is a best case scenario, and then there is probably a practical, realistic scenario in terms of payback and return on investment, and that is what we aim to give. So a combination of technical and financial support.
So we ended up with a system which used solar edge inverters, and basically the whole package is such that we can look at it in, it's every 15 minutes a data point is taken. So we can look at it through the day. It will tell us how much power is being generated. Panels are actually providing just over 10% of the overall power that the factory consumes. That's actually higher than I was expecting. I'd actually budgeted on it being about 6 or 7%. So that is particularly good. We've also installed a voltage optimization, or effectively a voltage reduction system in the factory. The solar PV actually comes through the voltage optimization system, and the combined effect of the two has been astonishing, in that our electricity bills have actually reduced by somewhere between 20 and 25%, which in anybody's money is an astonishing, and it's actually far more than I was expecting. We were given a figure of something like about 5.5 years payback on the solar PV based on feed-in tariff and electricity saved, and I think we're going to be ahead of that.
The success that they've had with that and the support it's had from senior management means that they're ready to look at even broader and potentially more speculative options.
The business, I think the fundamental benefit are twofold really. One is obviously we are saving money, and the second is that we are obviously we've reduced our environmental impact. It's contributed to showing Denny Brothers as being a responsible business. So our corporate social responsibility is, effectively, it's a good example of that. When you're doing any kind of environmental projects and improvements, you've almost got to think of them as business improvements. But I do think the support from people like SABRE is incredibly valuable, because it gives you the ability to, perhaps be a bit brave, more brave than you would otherwise be. I think actually it's been a very, very good process, but it's been a case of very sort of informal but very focused, and it has been a case of almost sort of growing or going and growing with us in the process. I would definitely recommend SABRE, because it's just worked for us as a business, and I think we would have struggled. I don't think we would have ended up with such a good installation had we not had the support.